Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan back here again today on this Astrology Human Design Gene Keys channel, a space for the wild hearts. And I'm so excited to be here today to talk about signs and indicators and aspects in the birth chart and human design and the gene keys that can indicate that someone is a freedom fighter. So I want to begin this video by identifying what it means when I'm using the term freedom fighter. So I am talking about somebody that is very independent in the birth chart and is also looking to liberate and free other people around them towards their independence too. And I feel like this video is being sparked today because of the Mars-Uranus conjunction that is happening in this transits in the sign of Taurus. And so this electric energy is really firing up a lot of these themes for all of us. But I'm pointing out to you today your birth chart and signs and indicators of being a freedom fighter in your birth chart, because there is this element, there's this energy in the sky right now of being free, of fighting for your freedom. And I can definitely feel that in my life. And when I'm talking about, somebody who is a freedom fighter here, I am also talking about, when we consider you're fighting, right? You're fighting against something. And when you're getting freedom from something. So there is this element of something holding you back. And because something is holding you back, there's this intensity. This intensity is fueling the energy to make a change, to fight. And of course, fighting doesn't have to be aggressive. Fighting can be good. Aggression is maybe none of the times not so great, but fighting can be a good fight. It can be an assertive character. It's something that you stand for because of something that you see that's not working. And there's different ways that this can happen. And yeah, let's get right into it and into the details of each of the aspects in your birth chart that does this. So, of course, the number one aspect in the birth chart that is a telltale sign of somebody who is a freedom fighter is a Mars-Uranus aspect. Just like what we have currently the transits right now, Mars-Uranus conjunction. But when we're looking at the birth chart, we can be looking at any aspects that's made between Mars and Uranus, except the in conjunction. So Mars conjunct Uranus in the birth chart, Mars opposite Uranus in the birth chart, Mars square Uranus in the birth chart, Mars trine sextile. The trine and sextile is a little bit of just I would say that's more of like freedom energy, independence, may not necessarily show that element of fighting as much as some of the other harder aspects are showing. We can also have Mars quintile or biquintile to Uranus in the birth chart. And when you're looking at these particular aspects, you do want to keep in mind the orbs. So when we're talking about squares, oppositions, and conjunctions, we are looking at an orb that can be somewhere between 0, so they're exact the same. For example, 19 degrees Mars in Taurus, 19 degrees Uranus in Taurus, or 19 degrees Mars in Taurus, 19 degrees Uranus in Scorpio, which is opposition, right? So that's exact. Now we can extend this orbs mathematically to about 8 degrees. I would use about 8 degrees for Mars and Uranus. Will probably still feel it. The closer the orbs are, the more intense you're gonna feel it. The further apart they are, the more there's gonna be other things in the chart, other things in your life that will take the foreground. The trine and the sextile, I would keep the orbs a little bit closer because the further apart they are, the more you may not feel it. So maybe up to 5 degrees. The quintile and the biquintile, because it's more of a minor aspect, I would look at that. Like you have to be pretty close, like within 2 degrees orbs I would even use, for example. If it's further than that, it's not going to really be felt. And the quintiles and the biquintiles, that would also indicate creativity, productivity in the fighting element. The sextile is also indicating a bit more productivity and creativity. I think it's really more the trine that's a little bit just like, I just want my freedom, kind of an energy. But these aspects between Mars and Uranus is indicating this conflict between the individual and the society and how to be an individual within society. And this is a very, very strong topic that's also occurring in my life currently, also is the awakening of the individuality. amidst or amongst the constraints of societal and cultural barriers and shoulds and should nots and cultural appropriations and traditions. And how do we fight for our individuality? Because, you guys all know on this channel that there comes a point in time when we awaken to who we really are, free from the conditioning of our family, of society, and of our past, right? There's this awakening process of coming to realize like what our energy is made up of. What is our natural energy flow? What do we really find joy in? And that's really a part of our body. It's a process of embodiment that can lead us to this awakening of what's true for our body. And to live a life that's true for your body and your intuition is a way of changing the world. Because that's what Uranus wants to do. Uranus wants to change the world. Changing the world is not just something that we do on a governmental level. That is superficial change. We all know that. You can select a new president, or you can select a new, minister of whichever department you want to select. And I would even go as far, but this is a little bit, I would say, it depends, but there are certain communities that are more focused on, for example, the environment of the earth without changing yourself from the inside. But usually with that kind of external cause, it does come with an internal awakening first, usually. Not all the time, but most of the time it does. But my point here is that these changes that happen at an external level does not last and is not authentic and is not the fundamental of what we're actually changing here. And, when you're really working with the positive elements of Mars and Uranus, we are looking at changing, understanding your physical energy, your body, and what aligns with that, and then bringing that into society. So bringing that individuality into the society and fighting for that in a sense, because Mars is the fighter. So this could mean like being an example, being a role model in the world. That can be a fight in itself. Maybe that's through the speech, what you say, motivational speakers. That can be, or books that you write, or art that you create. How do you use your energy? That can be a form of fighting. Maybe if you have an opposition, this is more like fighting with another person one-to-one, like actually having to confront them and having to, deal with, you're telling another person like what you're doing with your life, how you want your freedom, and that can be much more, emotional and intense. But all the aspects are gonna gear towards this kind of a freedom fighting. There's a lot of change that can be had with Mars Uranus, and if you're one of those people who have this aspect, then look inwards, change yourself, bring that to the world. That'll be different for everybody, but it all starts from within. So the next aspect, I want to take you to human design and the gene keys, because there are some really cool gates and channels in there that can indicate that you are a freedom fighter. So when I'm looking at human design, the gene keys, I'm looking at gate 55, gate 39, and 38. So 39 and 38 are programming partners, and the 55 is a harmonic gate to gate 39, which is a connection from the root center to the solar plexus. So we have in the gene keys, the 55 is moving from a shadow of victimization to the gifts of freedom to the city of freedom. We have the 39, which is moving from the shadow of provocation to the gift of liberation, dynamism to the city of liberation. And we have the 38, which is the shadow of struggle, the gift of perseverance, and the city of honor. So these, the channel 3955 especially is an individual channel, and it is somebody that is going to express themselves freely. A lot of the people who have this are poets or artists or dancers or whatever it is, where they can channel their emotional energy into freeing themselves, especially their anger, like channeling anger into self-expression that can be used to help free others. Okay. And the 38 is a programming partner with the 39 because it keeps it going. It keeps the 39 going, keeps the momentum going. It makes things last. It's durable. It's kind of like if you want to really make a change in the world, it doesn't just happen overnight. You have to kind of keep it going. I'm also thinking of another gate in human design that's really not going to be talked about so much when it comes to freedom fighting, but I think it's worth bringing up here because Richard Rudd did say that this is a gate where you want to free more free souls, and that is gate 8. And I can't remember what the exact thing that he wrote, but gate 8, the shadow of mediocrity, the gift of style, the city of exquisiteness, is bringing this element of uniqueness, being an individual, expressing yourself uniquely and freeing other people to doing the same. So it's kind of the same idea as Mars-Uranus, I would say, but there is this element of emotion that is being infused into these gates that I'm telling you, and heart with gate 8 that's being infused into it. And all of these gates does indicate a lot of internal challenge. Freeing yourself internally first. Gate 8 is about daring to stand out. It's like daring to be a diamond in a field of rock. That's not easy when everybody around you is comfortable with something, and you have to be the different one because you're bringing something that is true to your heart, but it's also different and unique, right? That requires a lot of courage, and that also requires a lot of cultivating strength from within. That's why gate 8 is kind of like the infinity symbol, which is in the tarot on the strength card. There's a little bit of that association there, which I love to look at. All right, so the last aspect in the birth chart that I want to bring out here, this is the astrological birth chart that can indicate that you are a freedom fighter. This is just something that I'm noticing is the North Node being placed in the first house, the 10th house, and the 9th house from time to time. And I'm not going to include the North Node in the 11th here because North Node in the 11th has South Node in the 5th. And the 5th house is very different from South Node in the 4th, or South Node in the 7th, or South Node in the 3rd. But I think more North Node in the 1st, South Node in the 7th, North Node in the 10th, South Node in the 4th. So these kind of angular houses are bringing that element of more of like freedom. Because there's a South Node there that's in a very heavy house, like the 4th and the 7th. The 7th is the house of the other, marriage. And the 4th is the family. So when we have people that have North Node in the first house, they are learning to balance marriage life, the needs of the other with the needs of the self, and cultivating more understanding of the needs of yourself and learning to listen to your instinct, following your gut. And being a leader, in a sense, being the role model, being an example for other people to follow. And with North Node in the 10th, there is a baggage from the family. This is the placement of like having to deal with, family wounds, family karma, healing generational wounds, for example, so that we can be free from that conditioning and stepping out into the world and being an example, living your life in a way that inspires others with the 10th, like being public, being authentically public, after having done the deep internal work. And North Node in the 9th is a no-brainer because the 9th house is a house that has to do with freedom and the freedom to move, to think. This is the house that changes a lot of the paradigms that we have in life and allows us to expand our minds and think freely, shift our perspective of things, which is when you have the South Node in the 3rd house. The 3rd house is always learning just about kind of the practical, mundane things of life. And it's also about our siblings. And relatives can also be indicated by the 3rd house. And there can be that element of deconditioning from that into, what do I really think? Because when you really think about it, when you grow up with a sibling, right? You're kind of, when you are, let's say, younger, you kind of think the same. You kind of like, get along better because you're thinking of the same things. And then at one point in your life, through life experience, which is the 9th house, you kind of begin to think differently, have different opinions about certain things because your life is diverging, right? You're beginning to go to different schools, different friends, have a different job. So you begin to think differently. And so there's that element there. And the reason why I don't mention the 11th house here, or Aquarius energy even, is because of personal experience. Also, in theory, you might think Aquarius is a freedom fighter. But I have not experienced that in my life with the Aquariuses that I know, with people who have heavy 11th house placements. That is not something that I can say with 99% certainty or with 80% certainty as with all the other placements that it's going to indicate that. Freedom fighter. And of course, the 11th house rules our hopes and dreams and wishes, right? But our hopes and dreams and wishes could be anything. But it doesn't really indicate that your hopes or wishes have to go against society or have to challenge the existing societal norms. It doesn't really indicate that. So people who have heavy planets in the 11th or Aquarius are very ambitious. But that ambition may not necessarily have something to do with the Mars energy, which is the fighting against the society. And there's a lot of Saturn element associated with Aquarius as well, which is, Aquarius is Saturn and Uranus, but Uranus is just Uranus, right? So I mentioned Uranus and Mars, whereas Aquarius, a lot of Aquarius people lean more towards the Saturn side of things, which is keeping the societal structures just as they are. And yes, maybe implementing some kind of changes here and there, but not to the point of freedom or freedom fighting. So the last bonus that I want to include in this particular video for signs that you might be a freedom fighter is having Lilith in I would say Lilith conjunct the midheaven or Lilith conjunct the ascendant. I cannot, say this more strongly than this, because Lilith on the ascendant and Lilith on the midheaven is like, let me do my thing. And if you don't let them do their thing, they can really, get the heat going and can act a little bit, I would use the word batchy a little bit there. There's that element of it there. They will assume their position as an independent entity with Lilith on the ascendant and Lilith on the midheaven, and they will not let you get in their way. Because remember the story of Lilith, how she is taking independence from Adam. She's trying to do her own thing, right? No matter who's trying to stop her. So that's just my little bonus tip there. But yes, beautiful souls, this is going to be the end of this video. I feel like I had a lot of fun talking to you guys about indicators of freedom fighters in the birth chart. So I'm sending you guys a very happy Mars-Uranus conjunction this month. I hope that you are fighting for your freedom, or you're feeling as free as you can feel and doing it with diplomacy and tact and consideration for others' feelings at the same time. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. If you already subscribed, then thank you very much, beautiful souls, for coming on this journey. If you like this video, then also give me a super thanks. I would appreciate it so much, because it does take a lot of time to make these videos, to edit them, to think of topics, and to send them out. And once again, I am wearing a 100% hemp jacket. This is the hemp revolution, fighting for the freedom of the planet. All right, loving you guys so much. Bye.